Good evening. Welcome to the June 26th Board of Commissioners meeting. And obviously, I didn't get the word about wearing a sport jacket, so please leave your clothes on. Unfortunately, Commissioner Cupid is not feeling well tonight, and so she's at home with her children who are also not feeling well. So we wish the whole family blessings there. And then Commissioner Burrow this week is up with her mother. So it's just the three amigos. See what happens here. With that, we're very fortunate to have Pastor Scott Franks from the Burnt Hickory Baptist Church of Christ, Church of Christ leading us to invocation, followed by firefighter Ben Tyre leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So those who are willing and able, please stand.
Let's pray. Father in heaven, we pause tonight just to humbly acknowledge your goodness. We realize, Lord, we are richly blessed as a people, as a country, as a county. You've been so good to us. And so we just pause to say thank you and recognize that every good thing comes from you. And I ask tonight a special blessing on these commissioners, and I thank you for them and for their willingness to serve us, for their willingness to step into some, at times, difficult deliberations, to balance the needs and demands of so many people in Cobb County. And I just ask, Lord, that you guide their hearts and guard their hearts and minds as they discuss tonight. I ask that you give them clarity and give them wisdom. Show them what is right and what is true and what is best. Bless them in their work and bless their families. I ask this in the name of your Son. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Fireman, and thank you, Pastor. Okay, we have one presentation tonight, and Commissioner Weatherford will be leading that presentation.
Thank you. We have a presentation tonight by the Cobb County Fair Association, and I would like their representatives to come up along with our Parks and Rec people. In 1982, I believe it was, Cobb County entered into agreement with the Cobb County Fair Association to purchase what is now J.R. Miller Park. It was a great negotiation because apparently we worked it out that they have to pay us every year as well. So that's a real good way to buy parkland. But they're here tonight to present to us their hard work with the State Fair. And what are you doing over there?
We're just...
So we got one of these big checks. That's why I put a tie on, because I saw how much it is. It might help make up some deficits or something. So who's going to lead this?
It's my turn, Mr.
All right,
Cobb.
sir. Thank you.
I'm Johnny Woodward.
Right?
You done perfect.
Okay.
I'm Johnny Woodward, and I'm able to be the Fair Board president for 17 and 18, and I get to present the check.
Wow.
So
Tell me how much it is.
well, this one's $300,000.
This one is another one.
We hope there's some more, but you got to pray for dry weather. So that's the only way we'll get it, is to have dry weather. We've had 2 successful fairs in a row with real pretty weather, and it's created a little bit of a windfall, and we appreciate it. And these people here, along with JRM Management Company back here who works for us, and Mr. Jimmy Drew, who's not here, he brings our rides. That's who gives us all our thrills. But we hope this will go towards making part of this end of the county happy.
Well, this is great.
And thank you for accepting it.
Oh, no. They thank me for taking it. All right.
Some people turn them down.
Do they really? Why don't you introduce everyone, have everyone introduce themselves. And,
Pass this around and they'll
tell us a little bit about yourself, and well, not too long now.
I am Butch Thompson, former county commissioner, thank goodness.
Roswell Story, retired Cobb County employee.
Frank Wigington, proud to be a Fair Board member. Mike Donahue, former mayor of Ackworth, retired.
Hi, I'm Carla Brown, the newest member to the board. I'm not sure what I've gotten into, but I'm just glad to be a part of it.
I'm Devin Seaball with Metro Atlanta Ambulance.
I'm Terry Chandler, and I've recently retired from the county, and I know the county needs the money, so.
Mike, this is for you. I'm Brett McClung, and I'm a CPA.
Charlotte Dorsey, and I'm a Fair Board member.
Alice Summerhour, happy to be a Fair Board member.
Great, what a great group of people, and look what they've done for the county, and support them with the rides and all those little tickets and the slushies and the ice cream and all that good stuff. Corn dogs, don't forget corn dogs. So I think this is a great thing, so let's,
JRM Management.
you bring them on up.
Todd, you and, y'all come up here.
Come on up as well. They've managed this affair. Of the affair. Okay. So great job. So let's give all these people a big hand and thank them for their generosity. All right, let's gather in.
Ken, you're on a ride. Squeeze it on in.
Okay, I believe we have a full plate of speakers tonight, right, Deborah? But before we hear that full plate of speakers, we have a public hearing. All right. It's all yours, Dana. Pull me out of this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This one should be fairly easy. This one is a Metropolitan Rivers Protection Act, or MERPA, public hearing for two single-family homes, one at 4861 Fox Run Lane and the other at 4865 Fox Run Lane. As a bit of background, the Metropolitan Rivers Protection Act was a law of the state of Georgia from 1973. In 1973, they required that all land disturbing activities within 2,000 feet of the Chattahoochee River had to go for a regional review through the Atlanta Regional Commission for consistency with the act. These two particular properties are between Fox Run Lane and Johnson Ferry Road. They have been found to be in compliance with the Chattahoochee Corridor River Protection Act. And I would ask the board if they would please open up a public hearing, and at the conclusion of the public hearing, if you would grant a certificate for these two homes. With that, thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Dana. And just sort of give you the ground rules, there's no limit to the number of public speakers. Each public speaker is limited to 3 minutes each. So with that, I now declare this public hearing open to approve a Chattahoochee Corridor Plan Certificate of Compliance to construct two new single-family detached residential structures. Would anyone care to address this issue? Would anyone care to address this issue? Seeing none, I now declare this public hearing closed, and I'll turn this over to Commissioner Ott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since all the review has been done by the ARC and they have found it to be in compliance, I'll make a motion to approve the Chattahoochee Corridor Plan Certificate of Compliance to construct the two new single-family detached residential structures as depicted in the agenda.
Second. Any discussion? Call the question. Passes 3-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, David. Now.
Okay, you have 12 speakers. Would you like to hear them in?
Yeah. You want to do that now? Yeah. Okay. Could you give us 1 second, please? Commissioner Weatherford would like to read something here.
Thanks for the time, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to let everyone know what the contribution we just received will be going to. The 300,000, 100,000 of that will be replacing the message board at the park or at the fairgrounds. 100,000 will be to replace the old fencing around the perimeter and inside the park. And then another 100,000 will go to our paving fund to extend the paving on the grounds. I wanted to mention with this contribution, the fair will have contributed over $1 million in capital improvements over the past 5 years. Quite an accomplishment. So we're also very proud of our community partners. Must Ministries is always there donating perishable and collecting foods. They've done over 47,000 pounds alone in 2017. And proud supporters also of the Calvary Children's Home with 100,000 donations. So the Fair Board does a lot for our community. And if you get a chance, thank them and certainly support the fair. So thank you, sir, for your indulgence.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Jimmy, when is Jim Miller Park going to open up?
August 31st.
Okay, it's a matter of record now, August 31st. No pressure.
September.
Okay, we have 12 speakers tonight, I think.
Yes, would you like to hear them in succession?
Yeah, let's just go ahead and, I'm sure.
We're okay, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, the first speaker will be Lynn Tipton, if you come forward.
Good evening. My name is Lynn Tipton, and I live in District 3. I'm here tonight to ask you not to close the Cobb County Cooperative Extension Service. To support my argument, I would like to share some important statistical data regarding their agency. Last year, 37,088 Cobb County residents reached out to the Extension Services for their services by either email or telephone contacts. In addition to these technological contacts, there were 39,204 in-person contacts. The total of contacts equals 76,292 citizens who reached out to the Cobb services in 2017. Now that's a lot of people, but even so, it's important to note, this total does not include the statistics of the popular 4-H and Master Gardener clubs, emails, phone calls, and impersonal contacts. One can only envision how high the number would go if they were included. As I just mentioned, I do not have the statistics of the Master Gardeners, but I do have books collected at the 2018 Master Gardener Plant Sale and Garden Tour that I would like to present to Chairman Boyce and the commissioners for their review. These books contain the signatures of the concerned Cobb citizens who are in favor of keeping the Extension Service open. Personally, I wish I had a Master Gardener's yard, but I don't. However, I'm what you might call an urban gardener. I do have an assortment of blueberry bushes, figs, grapes, and domestic blueberries. I also have a vegetable garden every year, which aids in stretching my budget. In order to keep my plants healthy, I've reached out to the Extension Service numerous times in their agriculture and horticulture departments to ask about such things as pest, disease and plant identification, advice on lawn care, and have submitted soil samples for analysis. Apart from the popular 4-H club, which has my true heart, and the Master Gardeners, there are many other programs. Due to time restraint, I will touch upon only a few tonight. Under the direction of the Extension Service, in the division of the Family and Consumer Science Program, which provides other valuable services to our citizens, not only do they promote wellness through exercise programs and health fairs, they provide education techniques on food processing and preservation. Their nutritional workshops often provide a focus on the prevention and maintenance of diseases such as diabetes and high blood pressure. Another workshop recently conducted, entitled How to Care for Aging Family Members or Spouse, should remind us all how much these programs are needed with a fast-growing aging baby boomers. One more important program offered by the Extension Service touches on each and every person in this room. In the Serve Safe program, they offer a mandated food and beverage safety training course that's required for all operating restaurants in Cobb County. The course's agenda is to properly educate restaurant staff members in the methods of keeping food properly preserved, safe for consumption, and to avoid cross-contamination. The Cobb Extension Service issues a certificate upon completion. So remember, when you go out to eat, you can thank the Extension Service for helping to keep your food safe. On a personal note, because the Extension Service is sponsored through the University of Georgia, as a graduate student at Kennesaw State University, I first reached out to the Cobb Extension Service when writing my thesis. I bring this up only to demonstrate how we cannot risk a disconnect from the University of Georgia and the valuable resources they offer Cobb County. Winding down, I would like to use my voice as the voice of the many who are in agreement to say what a tremendous loss it would be for Cobb to lose the Cooperative Extension Service, an agency that has in the past and can in the future be provide such beneficial services to the people of Cobb County. So as I begin my statement, I shall end it. Please do not close the Cobb County Extension Service and leave Cobb residents, the only county in the state of Georgia without a Cooperative Extension Service. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Kathy Brown.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Kathy Brown. I was born and raised in Cobb County. I have a deep interest in this county, the history of the place, and the quality of life of its residents. And I'm here today to speak on behalf of the Cobb County Master Gardener Program of the Cobb County Extension Service, which I believe provides an invaluable service to the citizens of this county. Since the early 2000s, my husband Chris and I have been involved in Cobb Landmarks and Historical Society. It is the mission of Cobb Landmarks to preserve, protect, and promote the historic heritage and way of life of this community. In 1990, Cobb Landmarks acquired the William Root House, one of Marietta's oldest buildings, and moved it to its present location at the corner of the Loop and Polk Street. The house and its surrounding land were developed into a historical museum that reflects the way of life of an ordinary family in Marietta in 1850. The garden part of the Root House Museum and Garden is a project of the Master Gardeners Volunteers of Cobb County. It reflects the practices of the mid-19th century, featuring only plants grown in the South between 1840 and 1860, including vegetables, culinary herbs, medicinal herbs, decorative plants, and heirloom shrubs. So why is the Root House Garden important? It provides a valuable educational experience to all visitors, but particularly to school children, many of whom are provided with the rare opportunity to visit a heritage site. Kids are provided a tangible link to a middle-class family, which is more relevant to them than antebellum mansions. They leave our garden with a real historical setting in their minds, something they can't get from just reading a book. They learn how people used what they grew in their gardens. They take home seeds, and they have a valuable hands-on experience. The tools for this experience are provided by the Master Gardeners. The garden is part of the historical collection of the museum, whose authenticity is just as important as the house itself and all the artifacts in it. The garden is half the museum and wouldn't exist without the Master Gardeners, who have developed, supported, and maintained the garden for decades. The Root House Garden offers public green space in a sea of asphalt on the 120 loop. People use it to enjoy a space that's beautiful and quiet and green, even if they're not coming in for a tour, so it's there all the time for everyone. Why are the Master Gardeners crucial to this? The Master Gardener volunteers maintain the perennial flower beds, making the landscape more appealing to visitors, especially the thousands of school children who enjoy docent-led tours in the spring and fall. It is the expertise of the Master Gardeners, through their training with the Extension Service, that ensures that plants are appropriate for the time and place of the museum so that the educational experience is not only enjoyable but also accurate. The Master Gardeners supply the Root House Museum docents with valuable garden information, which they can share with visitors. The Master Gardeners bring together history and horticulture, educating the public, including local gardeners, on vintage plants. The Master Gardeners lend their expertise to the Root House annual plant sale, which benefits Cobb Landmarks financially while helping gardeners throughout the county who desire heirloom and hard-to-find plants. In this way, the Master Gardeners benefit not only our garden, but all the gardens and gardeners throughout the county. So does the benefit provided to our citizens exceed the cost in tax dollars? To me, the answer is clearly yes, as illustrated through two important words. One crucial word is volunteers. The Master Gardeners program is organized through the County Extension Service, which, through tax dollars, provides organization and training. After training, the service provided to the community is free, and the financial investment is multiplied many times over through the generosity of the volunteers. The other crucial word is master. It is the expertise of the Master Gardeners that enables us to have the finest recreated 19th century garden in Marietta. They are both the labor and the curators of that part of the museum. To pay for those services would be very expensive. Root House visitation has been on the upswing for several years, and Cobb Landmarks is beginning an expansion program which will result in increased visitation, so the garden is going to be even more important in the future. If Cobb County defunds its extension
Thank you, ma'am, for your
service,
comments.
it would become the only county in Georgia without this service to its citizen. On behalf of Cobb Landmarks, I urge the commissioners to continue to fund the extension service, the benefits of which, because of the generosity of its volunteers, offers the citizens a huge bang for their buck. Thank you.
The next speaker is Tony Harris.
Good evening. My name is Tony Harris. I'm a citizen of the Cherokee Nation and also a Master Gardener. And I want to talk to you tonight about the Cherokee Garden at Green Meadows Preserve. The Cherokee Garden at Green Meadows Preserve is a garden that features plants that the Cherokees used for food, medicine, tools, weapons, ceremonial purposes prior to the Trail of Tears. It represents one of the things that the Cherokees had to leave when they were forcibly removed from Georgia. The Cherokees relied on these plants for survival for hundreds and thousands of years, so it was very traumatic. And so for that reason, this garden, we just recently were able to get it designated as an interpretive site on the Trail of Tears National Historic Trail. And that is a big honor. This is the only certified National Historic Trail site in Cobb County. And it has gaining more and more attention as people learn of what it has to offer. It's listed on the National Park Service website, which means that it gets national attention as well. And it's up there with the sites like Lewis and Clark, like the Santa Fe Trail. There's 19 different trails in the National Park Service system. But of those 19 trails, this is the only one dedicated strictly to a garden. So we're very proud of that, and this is very unique. And what we have found is that this garden is a mecca, an attractant. It's like a magnet for tourists. We've had several different groups, a lot of different groups, come to the garden over the past 4 years. Over the last 4 years, there's been over 4,000 volunteer hours by Master Gardeners. That equates to about the equivalent of about $28,000 a year in labor, free labor, that the county did not have to match. Now, when I mentioned that it's a mecca for tourism, some of the things that maybe you need to be aware of is even yesterday, we had a group of 30 docents from the Atlanta Botanical Garden come out to tour the Cherokee Garden. They had heard a lot about it, and they wanted to learn more about it. And after that tour, we've agreed to have reciprocal agreements with them, exchanging both information and data. So we're very happy to have that relationship started. In addition to this, we have had groups from all over the state of Georgia, both gardening groups, civic groups, from the following cities: Smyrna, Rome, Covington, Forsyth, Marietta, Roswell, Noonan, Fort Oglethorpe, Kennesaw, Atlanta, Rheingold, and Hayesville, North Carolina. That doesn't count the numerous school groups that we've had come and tour the garden as well. So it is a mecca for tourism. And I would say this, that even though it's been a low profile, we don't have a sign out there yet saying this is Green Meadows Preserve. This is by word of mouth so far. And so it's gotten a reputation across the state as something that people want to come and make a destination. They want to see the garden, they want to dine, and they want to shop. And so all of this is only possible by the Master Gardeners working with and through the Cobb County Extension Service. And so we hope that you look favorably on maintaining that relationship with the Cobb County Extension Service, because it is such a vital part to our economy and also to tourism. Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Amy Barnes.
Hi, my name is Amy Barnes. I do support a slight budget increase. I don't think most people realize, but I have been looking through the numbers, and I think it's going to be a rather expensive budget in the upcoming years. There will be cost increases, particularly on the litigation side. I've looked through the records online. I've looked through cost increases that are happening in real time in various markets. I think we had better support this increase, and the presentation was outstanding. Whoever designed the presentation online about the budget did an amazing job. So for that reason, I have not disputed my tax increase on my home. The other thing I wanted to say is I have a unique medical condition in that antibiotics don't work on me. Penicillin has no effect, amoxicillin has no effect, and I am medically required to grow and have and find certain plants. Because of the chives, thank you to the Extension Service for answering my questions on how to keep my chives healthy. I am healthy and well. The other thing is I'm no longer growing rabbit food. My plants are actually surviving because people have helped me learn how to protect and shield my plants from that rascally rabbit. So for that reason, I fully support the Extension Service. They have answered my questions and helped me a lot. Another topic I wanted to bring up was the flex bus. If there's any way, because it's my understanding that it was somehow approved, there was a study done, if there is any way to come to a conclusion on this, we could stop a bit of the rancor in the community from continuing. The flex bus is something that quite a few people out in my area of the county find very necessary. So I do support that. If there's any way to help this come to a preservation of the program, that would be cool. The other thing is, I've noticed a wonderful increase in politeness, again, with public services. I'm proud to say that we are a good county to live in. So for that reason, of being a customer of this county for so many years and seeing how wonderful the services are, I think it is up to us as a citizenry to fully back the county on this budget issue. It's one of the hardest issues that we have to face, but I think it is something we cannot kick down the road. So for that reason, I do encourage my fellow citizens and the board to continue forward with this proposed budget. And I wanted to thank the county for the hard work. I know it's not easy running all these departments. I know it's a very tough job keeping the roads pothole free. I know that we are running out of buckets, to borrow from Mike Boyce. We have run out of buckets. So I do propose that we find a way to support a tax increase, because if we don't, it'll be twice as bad in the future. That's just my opinion.
Thank you, Amy.
The next speaker is Stan Kirk.
I'm Stan Kirk, President of Cobb County Farm Bureau, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. I've lived on the same property on Stilesboro Road my whole life. So two of the most important figures in agriculture are from the state of Georgia. Both of them are products of the 4-H program and wouldn't have achieved the success that they have if it were not for 4-H when they were children. Former Governor Sonny Perdue is now U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, and Zippy Duval is the president of American Farm Bureau Federation, which is the largest farm organization in the world. Zippy was recently given the Lifetime Achievement Award by 4-H. He has children and grandchildren that live in Cobb County, and he was shocked when I told him that the commissioners had proposed cutting funding to the Cobb County Extension, which would lead to the elimination of the 4-H program in Cobb County. I'll now read you a letter that Zippy has sent to our county commissioners showing his support for continued funding of the Cobb Extension. Dear County Commissioners, I write in strong support of Extension services and agricultural education in Cobb County and urge you not to eliminate funding for the Cobb County Extension Office. As a former county commissioner and later chairman for Greene County, Georgia, I understand the challenge you face, but not all children are going to be sports stars. Let's continue to provide our children and my grandchildren in Cobb County an opportunity to be a star in life. The extension program is critical, perhaps even more so in urban, suburban areas such as Cobb County than in rural areas. I've been fortunate to be able to visit city schools around the country that are offering exciting agricultural education and vocational programs to students who otherwise would probably never set foot on a farm, much less help raise cattle, learn about animal and plant health, and sell their milk, meat, and other products to farmers markets. These kids happily get to school at the crack of dawn and on weekends to care for their animals and plants, learning life lessons about caring for living things and protecting our precious natural resources. Seeing their enthusiasm for agriculture and their commitment to responsibility is truly awe-inspiring. The Extension and 4-H programs open young people's eyes and minds to career opportunities they might never have known about. Extension and 4-H have such tremendous and proven track records of creating the leaders of tomorrow. As a product of 4-H myself, I know how important it is to giving young people hands-on training and experience in not only agriculture, but also citizenship, volunteerism, and all the exciting and important career opportunities available in health, science, and other fields. It would be such a loss for the Cobb County community, both now and in the future, to lose this vital investment in young people. I was honored to attend this year's 4-H Awards program in Washington, D.C., where I heard young people speak about their 4-H projects and what 4-H means to them. Their stories were so inspirational. For example, Amelia Day of Fort Valley, Georgia, was honored for her Operation Veteran Smiles program to deliver care packages and notes of appreciation to patients at veterans hospitals. Another award winner, Kira Lee Harry of Brooklyn, New York, has worked with younger students to help them feel empowered to dream for the future and work hard to convert their dreams into concrete goals and realities. Kira Lee's story is a heartwarming example of the impact of 4-H in an urban area. The beauty of the extension is programming in each state and county is tailored to the needs and interests of local students and residents. For example, in Cobb County, Extension and 4-H provide an agri-science program that helps fifth grade students meet the performance standards in the science portion of the CRCT testing. The Family and Consumer Sciences program of Cobb County Extension provides state-mandated training for food service and child care workers in the county. These wide-ranging programs are having a positive impact in the county's 1,800 restaurants and beyond. And then there's ag education, which is near and dear to my heart as a farmer and Farm Bureau leader. We must continue to educate young people about where their food comes from and how they can become involved in careers from farming itself to research, environmental science, computer technology, finance, and policy making that are vital to our nation's food security. I know the task before you is not easy, but I implore to you to protect funding for the valuable programs that Cobb County Extension offers. We cannot afford to lose the investment in the agricultural and community leaders of tomorrow. Thank you for your leadership and your consideration. Sincerely, Zippy Duvall, President of American Farm Bureau Federation. I'd also like to say Cobb County Farm Bureau has a 4-H program, a Young Farmers program that works closely with 4-H, and we have got 179 signatures on petitions to help save the extension. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today, and I'll be sending you copies of the letter.
The next speaker is Cynthia Patterson.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Cynthia Patterson. I live in District 2. Tonight we celebrate expanding Cobb's green space legacy. Last week, negotiations to acquire 29.7 acres of the Tritt property were made public. Joint funding for the purchase is provided by $8.3 million remaining in Park Bond 2008, a generous gift of $102,000 from the Friends for the East Cobb Park, and Mrs. Tritt's significant, gracious donation of land. Our thanks to the Board of Commissioners, Commissioner Ott, who represents District 2, and Mrs. Tritt for preserving this green jewel of East Cobb. This acquisition adds to the green space preserved with Park Bond 2008 funds, ponds, forests, streams, grasslands in West Cobb, Marietta, Mapleton, Austell, and Ackworth. Our thanks to the Board of Commissioners, Cobb County staff, property owners who sold their land to the county, citizens of Cobb County, and community groups who have worked for years to protect green space. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia.
The next speaker is Joe Washington.
Good evening, Chairman Boyce, Commissioners. You having fun yet? Yeah. I'm Joe Washington, a 42-year resident of Cobb County and another one of those master gardeners. I've never been one to speak at a community meeting, especially wearing a t-shirt supporting a cause, but I'm here this evening because one of the proposed cuts to the county budget is personal. Now, when I arrived in the area in 1976, I was told to live in Cobb County, where you get more bang for the buck. And that meant a lot of house for the money, lower taxes, and better services than anywhere else in the metro area. Now, I won't pretend to know what the millage rate was back then. I was 23 years old, and frankly, I had other things on my mind. But as more people moved in, and even as traffic got worse, I stayed in Cobb, both for the quality of life and the educational opportunities it would provide for my boys in Cobb County schools. Now, as far as the cost, I didn't quibble over that because I knew I was getting plenty of bang for the buck. At one point, I remember Andrew Young, as mayor of Atlanta, asking me, when are you moving into the city? And respectfully, my response was, when your taxes are lower. He didn't have a response. And honestly, I had no intention of moving. Now, as a former broadcast journalist, I know a sexy story when I see it. Parks and libraries on the chopping block. That's a sexy story. Blame the ballpark and the politicians. I'm not going to open up that wound tonight, but that'll make headlines. What about Cobb County Extension? Maybe not as sexy? Well, I would tend to disagree. Cut County Extension and more than 15,000 Cobb County school children could lose the benefit of after-school and summer programs from 4-H, among many other activities. And I've seen some amazing examples of youngsters who've benefited from 4-H. It really provides an opportunity for our young people to find their way. There's family and consumer sciences, and you've heard a little bit about them. That benefits Cobb residents through education and financial literacy, nutrition, food preservation, and healthy lifestyles. And by the way, these are the folks who teach that state-mandated training for the food service injury, again, as you've heard, and that affects the restaurants we frequent and child care centers where our toddlers eat lunch. And then there are those folks in the cool t-shirts, the master gardeners. Now, part of my motivation for volunteering as a master gardener came from my mother, who never finished high school. Now, when I went on to college, she went back to school. She earned her GED, and after training, became a nutrition aide for our local county extension in Washington State. So yeah, this is personal. You've heard it before, but it bears repeating. Master gardeners have a vision of growing a community of gardeners through educational programs and projects. Cobb has the most active group of certified master gardeners in Georgia, almost 250 of them. Among our activities, Cobb Master Gardeners support 58 school and community demonstration gardens with the help of research-based information from the University of Georgia. We maintain a horticulture line in the Extension office where citizens can call in and get answers to questions about plants and pests. When we don't have the answers, we can call on a full-time agent. And that's what the folks at SunTrust Park did last year when they fertilized their brand new turf and covered it with a tarp. Guess what happened? The grass turned yellow, and our agriculture and natural resources agent shared expertise to get the turf back in shape. Now, Cobb Extension plays an integral role in training pesticide license holders and arborists so they can recertify their licenses. We have a speakers bureau, and we're frequently called upon to present to community groups and garden clubs. We recently held our annual garden tour and plant sale, as you've heard. Those events raise funds that go directly to programs, schools, and community gardens, but we're far from self-sufficient. And without funding from Cobb County, the Extension office would close, and other funds that we depend upon from the University of Georgia would be withdrawn. So last month, I was among a group presenting a check to this body for in-kind services rendered by master gardeners to Cobb County. And you probably remember that presentation. It represented more than 22,400 hours of volunteer work in 2017, worth $575,874. Now, wouldn't you say that's bang for the buck? Now, this t-shirt I have on, I don't know if you paid much attention to it, but it says a partnership worth saving. I hope you'll agree with that. So I'll wrap this up by saying if the question is, can we afford extension? Then maybe another question should be, can we afford to lose extension? Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Cora Beragon.
Good evening. My name is Cora Beragon. I am an English to speakers of other languages teacher at South Cobb High School, specializing in math and science. I have been a Cobb teacher since 2001. After almost 20 years, a new challenge I could try was finding a way to get students off their phones. So I thought about project service learning as a way to help students make connections and take ownership of their new school. I decided to start a vegetable garden on campus to teach math, science, writing, like what the elementary schools do, and also have students serve their community by donating some of the produce. Thanks to a grant from the Cobb EMC Foundation, the Extension Master Gardener program paid for my teacher Master Gardener training. The Master Gardeners also provided additional funding to buy the soil, seeds, fertilizer, this time through their education committee, so that we could get it started. Once the garden was planted, we proceeded to use the garden for learning, and learn the students did. My students soared in the state English proficiency assessment. To put it in perspective, on a range from 1 to 6, with a baseline of 1, my students scored in the 4s in just a few months. In addition, they passed their algebra and literature end-of-course assessment, and we donated produce to Sweetwater Mission, and they were off their phones. And none of this would have been possible without the support of the Cobb Master Gardeners. But that's not all. After the horticulture program was cut, we had an abandoned greenhouse that collected dust and weeds for 10 years. It occurred to me that we could use the greenhouse as a learning place outside the classroom for all subjects. Again, the help of the Cobb Extension was key. When I called them to look at the greenhouse, they gave us advice on what was working there, what needed repairs, the significance of temperature controls, watering and fertilizing systems, and even plant choices. Most importantly, they encouraged us that it was a doable project, so we went to work on it. With a faulty thermostat, a broken ventilation system, and no working irrigation, we went from abandoned to having over 1,000 plants there. For a school with no funded horticulture program, the greenhouse has been a big bonanza. Students earned hundreds of community service hours. We supplied North Cobb High School with plants for their plant sale. We were the only school to sell plants at the Marietta Farmers Market, and we went 3 times. And the beauty of it is that students have used this outside classroom in courses such as photography, medical research, biology, environmental science, physics, algebra, the intensive English program, and the special education department's intellectually disabled classes. From the plant sales, we generated enough revenue to make some of the needed structural repairs. The work this year has been experimental. We learned that not to plant so much without irrigation. However, the teacher and student response has been tremendous. We look forward to a second year of great learning in the greenhouse. We are extremely grateful and know that we could not have done it without the strong support provided by the Cobb Extension Master Gardeners program. We take pride in knowing that Cobb is the best county in Metro Atlanta. You cannot let it go without the far-reaching services and access to information that the Extension, the libraries, and even our parks provide. I trust that you will find other ways of addressing the budget shortfall. Please save the Extension. Thank you.
The next speaker is Roberta Cooke.
Good evening, Chairman Boyce and Commissioners. My name is Roberta Cooke. I live in Mableton, Georgia. I'm here to thank you for the forthcoming park bond acquisition of 29.7 acre TRIT property, and to remind you the $40 million park bond was shortchanged by $12.5 million. Does this look familiar? I brought my $40 million cup to illustrate that it's still not full. I'm active in a citizen group called the Cobb Parks Coalition. Our website is cobbparkscoalition.org. We are citizens from every Cobb County district who have united to support the $40 million Cobb County Park Bond funding. a referendum to buy passive green space parkland in Cobb County. There were two $40 million park bonds approved by the voters via the ballot box. The first in 2006 and the second in 2008. As a charter member of the Cobb Parks Coalition, I remember the Tritt and Bullard Farm properties being the impetus for the first 2006 park bond. That bond was spent on Bullard Farm and several other properties except for Tritt. There was renewed hope for acquisition of the Tritt property when citizens voted for the second $40 million park bond in 2008. However, that bond was put on perpetual hold until Chairman Boyce made a campaign promise to honor it. Last year, the campaign promise was initiated when the park bond was partially funded with $27.5 million. That money was spent on 11 properties, and Commissioner Ott is to be congratulated today in securing the 12th long-awaited partial acquisition of the Tritt property. In closing, we are thankful for the Tritt property acquisition and look forward to the $12.5 million needed to completely fund the $40 million park bond that will fill up the cup. Thank you.
The next speaker is Kenneth Powell.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman Boyce. You know why I'm here. You know it's for the Flex Bus. You know, we're here tonight to remind you that we cannot afford in South Cobb to lose the Flex Bus service. If we lose that service, then not the people who count on the Flex Bus service to get back and forth to work are going to be out of luck. What we've asked for is 2 hours extension, morning and evening, and to start the bus service from inside the zones rather than starting them at the east-west connector going in the zones. People who need to be at the bus stop need to be picked up inside the zone so they can get out and get to work, and in the evenings to be able to get home. Now, I keep hearing a lot of scuttlebutt. Even last night at the TAB meeting, you know, the surveyors, whatever they call it, they're supposed to be transit professionals. They're recommending a cut to all 3 zones of the flex service. Yeah. And that is not what we have asked for. We have given the TAB committee and this commission a proposal that shows, number 1, how it can increase the ridership, 2, that it can get rid of the subsidies. Now they're talking about using Uber and Lyft to service that area, and the passengers will pay $1. And we subsidize up to $8. Well, if we have 100 passengers a day, we're subsidizing $800, which is more than we're subsidizing on what we have now. If we're only subsidizing between 48, well, this month it was between 24, and the highest was about $51 per trip. And we're only doing 2 and 3 trips around. So we are way below the $800 that is being proposed for using a private industry like Lyft and Uber. You know, so I really don't see why we can't go ahead and make the changes that we proposed in order to have the data necessary to justify funding the flex after October or next year. It is simple math, not fuzzy math. You know, once you get rid of the subsidies, you can use that money to pay for the 2-hour extensions on the top and the bottom. I mean, the money being used wisely. Right now, it is not being used wisely. So we ask that you consider it again and think about those people who are going to lose that service and how they're going to get back and forth to work. I mean, it's fine to get to, I'm not going to beat up on the circular down there. I think we put too much money down there in the Cumberland area. You know, I can support the 1.7 millage rate. You know, in our meetings, we've said we can support that. But we don't want to see it go to Cumberland or to town center. There are other areas in this county that need areas, that have areas where funding is needed to improve the quality of life in those areas. And that's what we're asking for. That's it. Thank you.
The next speaker is Mary Stevens.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Mary Stevens, and I live in East Cobb. I'm here to speak about keeping the name of General Joseph Johnston in the park's name. The concept is the same for all history established by generations of the past. They place memorials, statues, and icons to memorialize events and people of the past, usually into public squares, parks, or courthouses. In the Middle East, ancient ruins and religious icons were arrogantly destroyed by ISIS. These destructions are disrespectful of the prior generations that built the civilizations that we live in today. The monuments, statues, and icons are a historical fact, and whether you like them, disagree with them, or are a zealous mention, there is no valid excuse for depriving the next generation of them in order to rewrite or sanitize what actually was. This is censorship of the worst kind, the rewriting of history or the hiding of it from public view. We are the caretaker generation. We have no right to censor history for coming generations. What we end up with is distorted history. Who we are and where we've come from is captured in that history, and it should be honored and left as the inheritance of the past and the present. The current efforts to fundamentally transform history are fueled by people who believe America has been rotten since day one and want nothing less than total political and cultural revolution. It would be a travesty and a foreboding sign for America's future if there is no attempt to preserve our history against the push of a temporary and incredibly vocal and insistent minority. People try to sanitize or remove history, claiming that it offends them. But what offends me is that over 600,000 men were lost during the war between the states. Many did not return home, and the whereabouts of many are known only by God. We lost the most veterans in this war than in any other war, and their lives and services should never be forgotten. Please keep the name of General Joseph Johnston in the park. Happy July 4th.
The next speaker is Shell Schlegman. Thank you.
Well, I have a totally different topic. First of all, good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for hearing me. My name is Sheldon Schlegman. I'm an architect who resides at the Horizon Condominium across the street from the Broadstone Ridge apartment building. I was alerted on December 7th, 2017, to the fact that the developer Alliance Realty Partners was not building Broadstone Ridge in compliance with the rezoning Z27 plans as approved on June 19th, 2015. No shops were being built at sidewalk level as required by the documents approved by this Board of Commissioners. I'll repeat that. No shops were being built at sidewalk level as required by the documents approved by this Board of Commissioners. Our Commissioner Bob Ott was notified, and a group of neighbors, myself included, along with Alliance's lawyer, began a lengthy study to make the non-compliant construction acceptable to us. This plan was accepted by you on June 19th, last week. To date, I have not been able to ascertain how Alliance was able to eliminate these shops without approval. They were a big selling point to the community. I am asking the Cobb County Board of Commissioners to conduct a forensic investigation and report your findings to the community. Please vote tonight on this important investigation. This is critical to the proper execution of the upcoming much larger projects on Powers Ferry, Kroger, and Restaurant Row. Thank you for your consideration.
I appreciate your request, but we can't put something on the agenda without a process. So what I recommend you do is you work with Commissioner Ott. If you want to, and there's another, actually this is more appropriately addressed under a zoning hearing than here. But nonetheless, work with Commissioner Ott and to address your concerns, and then we'll go forth from there, okay?
All right, thank you.
But we're not allowed to bring it up tonight as an agenda. I just want to let you know that, all right?
Okay, thank you.
That's it? Wow. That went well. Okay, so appreciate all of the comments tonight. Let's go to the consent agenda. And just want to give a couple admin notes here before we scroll down the significant number of the consent items. First of all, if you go to consent item number, did we already pull 10 off this list? Let's go to number 10 then on the screen, all right? We're going to pull number 10 to approve the countywide master plan for the County Parks Department. The board needs more time to look at that master plan. We had a presentation yesterday, and we didn't feel it was adequate enough time to hear all the information, to digest it, and vote on it tonight. So we're gonna bring that back to a meeting later on, later in the future. The second one is the state, as you may have read, is returning approximately almost $300,000 back to the county in the form of a refund for fuel taxes. But, there's always a but, we have to approve this item before the end of the month because the state's budget year ends at the end of this week. So in order for us to get the refund, we have to pass an agenda item tonight to qualify for that refund. So as much as I don't normally like to add something to an agenda item, I believe that most people in Cobb County would appreciate us getting $300,000 and wouldn't have any really serious objection to us introducing this as as an addition at this late date. So what I'd like to do is announce adding of a non-agenda item from the Department of Transportation at the end of the consent agenda to authorize the acceptance and appropriation of funding from the Georgia Department of Community Affairs to offset losses in the local option sales tax revenue resulting from federal spending requirements. So it's going to put that at the end. I'm going to add that to the end of the consent agenda. Then I'd like you to just sort of scroll through the rest of them just very briefly, and I'll ask for a motion.
And I'll second the adding.
Okay? Right. So all in favor, say aye.
The other thing, Mr. Chairman, just this money's going to SWAST. Is it sales tax money, or where is money going? Well, you said something about local option sales
Yeah,
tax.
but
Or does it go to the airport fund?
It goes to the airport reserve,
Goes to
the
the
airport reserve
Right,
fund.
and just so folks know that that is restricted money, and it can only be spent at the airport.
But I don't want to see a bunch of new Ford Explorers at the airport either, all right? But just, Carl, if you're out there, just giving you
How about a couple of G4s, is that all right?
No G4s, so. Anyway, just continue looking through this list, and then I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Okay, so with that, I move to approve the items on the consent agenda as revised and to add the non-agenda item for the DOT at the end of the consent agenda, which is already approved, and authorize the execution of the necessary documents by the appropriate county personnel.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. And it passes 3-0, and I'm sure the governor's not watching tonight, but I really want to thank him for helping out by returning these funds to the county and all the counties in the state of Georgia. Another great example of a great leader leading the state of Georgia and Governor Deal. I have that too. Okay, with that, let's go to the regular agenda now, DOT regular. So Erica, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, sir. I would like to request that DOT remove item 28, if that would be acceptable to the board. Okay. So the first item for consideration for the Board of Commissioners tonight is to approve a contract with Paulette Tucker Enterprises, AKA Tucker Grading and Hauling, in an amount not to exceed $98,773.75 for drainage system repairs on Glendale Drive.
And since Commissioner Burrow's not here tonight, I'll go ahead and pick up hers and Commissioner Cupid's and make the motion, all right? So moved. The second, any discussion? Call the question. Passes 3-0.
Okay, thank you, sir. Our next item is to request the Board of Commissioners approve a contract with Accelera Construction, LLC, in an amount not to exceed $142,700 for countywide drainage system improvements for 2018-1.
Commissioner Ott?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. Passes 3-0.
Okay. Our next item is to request the Board of Commissioners approve a contract with Accelera Construction, LLC, in an amount not to exceed $133,400 for countywide drainage system improvements, 2018-2.
Commissioner Weatherford?
Motion to approve, sir.
A second, any discussion? Call the question. Passes 3-0.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is to request the Board of Commissioners approve change order number 1 final to the contract with Chatfield Contracting Incorporated, a savings to the project in the amount of $954.50 for emergency drainage repairs on Woodlawn Drive.
Commissioner Ott?
Motion to approve.
I'll second it. Discussion. Call the question. Passes 3-0.
This was a savings, and you're concerned about that.
On my street.
Oh, your street.
It wasn't that close.
Okay,
I'm sorry, Erica.
that's fine.
You did a great job of reading these, by the way.
Thanks.
I like them better than the 5-minute version.
Thank you. Much more condensed. So our next item is to request the Board of Commissioners approve a Cobb framework agreement with the Cumberland Community Improvement District in an amount not to exceed $232,098 for upgraded roadway improvements on Cumberland Boulevard.
Commissioner Ott?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a discussion. Call the question. Passes 3-0.
Okay, our next item is gonna, it goes with the first one just now. It's, we request the Board of Commissioners approve change order number 1 to the contract with C.W. Matthews Contracting Company, Inc., a savings to the project in the amount of $149,924 for the removal of galvanized mast arm poles and string poles on Cumberland Boulevard, and also approve a supplemental agreement number 1 to the contract in the amount not to exceed $382,021.56 for an upgrade of decorative black powder-coated mast arm poles and string poles for a net increase of $232,098 to the contract, and approve a contract time extension through March 31st, 2019.
Commissioner Ott.
Before I make a motion, just so everybody understands, when you drive through the Cumberland area and you see that they have the black coated light poles for the traffic lights, that's what this is doing. But what happens is it comes out of the county's budget to pay for it, and the Cumberland CID pays for it. So when you see that in there, you have to understand that the county didn't pay for it, but the Cumberland CID did, which is using money that they tax themselves. So motion to approve.
We have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Call the question. Passes 3-0.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is to request the Board of Commissioners approve a consultant services agreement with Low Engineers Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $46,671.92 for conceptual engineering design of roadway improvements on Sandtown Road.
Commissioner Weatherford.
Yes, sir. Motion to approve.
Any discussion? Call the question. Passes 3-0.
Okay. Our next item is to request the Board of Commissioners approve change order number 3 final to the contract with Masana Construction, Inc., a savings to the project in an amount of $32,760 for construction of I-75 Cumberland Boulevard Interchange Beautification and Bridgescapes Project.
This is yours. 27.
I thought this is the one we pulled. This is 28,
No.
right?
27.
This is 27.
27.
We all
We're
both told
pulling
you that.
the next one.
Well, no, the number, all right. So motion to approve.
Sorry.
Second.
Did you second it?
I did.
Does he know what one we're voting on
We're
yet?
voting on 27.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right.
Call the question. Passes 3-0.
I'm sorry, I had the number wrong. This is the one we're pulling. It should have been 29, I'm sorry.
I'll take care of this.
Okay.
You're still off the one.
We're supporting her.
It's item
Get us back on
29.
track,
I'm sorry,
Erica.
it's City of Austell. Okay, so the next one, I'm sorry, is to request the Board of Commissioners authorize the sole source procurement of 5 MyVision Scout video collection units to include associated hardware and software in an amount not to exceed $25,388.
Commissioner Ott.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
I'm confused which one we're doing this.
Number 29.
Oh, good, thank you. Okay, I thought we were. Okay.
All in favor? Call the question. Passes 3-0.
Okay, and the next few items, Eric Myers here also to answer any questions if you have any. So the next item, we would like to request that the Board of Commissioners authorize advertisement for and conduct a public hearing prior to expending funds of $100,000 or more to employ an independent consultant or consulting firm for transportation planning services to develop a 5-year update to the Cobb County Comprehensive Plan 2040.
Okay, before I make a motion, I just want to explain to folks that as some of the requirements that the county has to have in addition to our comprehensive plan, the county also every 5 years has to update our comprehensive transportation plan. And so this agenda item here is something that is required. We have reached the 5-year point. And so what happens is that we have to put out for a bid for a consultant to come in and do the required work for the comprehensive transportation plan. The next agenda item, which we'll talk about when we get to, is different. So motion to approve.
Second. Discussion? Call the question. Passes 3-0.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is to request the Board of Commissioners approve supplemental agreement number 1 to the consultant services agreement with Nelson Nygaard Consulting Associates, Inc. In an amount not to exceed $156,338. And for the additional development of the Cobb Link Transit Service Plan. Part of that money is going to be going towards the related to the telephone surveys. Also, it's going to go toward additional research of suburban transit systems best practices, and also to develop planning level cost and revenue estimates for medium range transit options. So we would like to request that the Board of Commissioners
Okay, so what's different about this one, as a lot of folks in the audience know, that the county has been conducting a transit analysis of what our transit system, what it does well, what it doesn't do well, what needs to be repaired. And when that was started, House Bill 930 had not been passed, which is the transit bill that was passed this past session. So moving forward, the county has multiple options, as we've discussed at a past work session. So instead of having to start from the beginning with a new consultant, what the county has done is adding to the contract to the firm that has already analyzed the existing transit system. And matter of fact, we just got a report yesterday at the work session as to the strengths and weaknesses of our existing system. So it makes sense to add to this contract. As Erica mentioned, there is a phone survey that is being paid for by the general fund money. There is also money coming from the SPLOST, and then a Federal Transit Administration grant. So motion to approve.
And I'll second. I just want to make one comment. I think it's very important that, I know there's a lot of moving parts involving transit right now, and this is very important we make the distinction, like the Commissioner just said here, which is involving the original transit study, which we approved last year, and which goes to a system that carries 2.5 million people a year.
Yes, sir.
So we have, I believe, the largest bus system in the metro area, and we're trying to find a way to make it better, more efficient, and more effective, and also use best practices. The second one here is this is a result of the HB 930, the House bill that was passed this spring by the legislature, asking us to consider various transit options with regard to the governor's program to connect transit programs in the metro area regionally. And this survey is going to be the reference point that we're going to take to the delegation and to the board and to the taxpayers if we in the spring on town halls as to what it is we want to do with regard to a transit system in the future. And the reason we went for the largest option for the poll was to make sure that we had the widest possible representation of the people in Cobb County, both those who are active voters and also those across the board, across the county, because as we all know, different parts of the county benefit differently from different transit options. So again, just bear with us here. I know there's always issues about more money being paid to programs, but this is really money, in my belief, that's money well spent, because we need to have a survey that reflects what you think, rather than what we just hear at a cocktail party conversation or at our local coffee bar. So with that, I'll call the question. Passes 3-0.
Okay, thank you, sir. Our next item is to request the Board of Commissioners approve a memorandum of agreement with the Atlanta Regional Commission, Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority, Henry County, and Gwinnett County for transit planning software in an amount not to exceed $4,448 annually for a 3-year contract period, retroactive from June 1st, 2018 through May 31st, 2021, for a contract total not to exceed $13,344.
Commissioner Ott.
Motion to approve.
I'll second. Any discussion? Call the question. Try it again. The board didn't work. There we go. Passes 3-0.
Okay. Our next item is to request the Board of Commissioners adopt a resolution authorizing the adoption of the Cobb County Greenways and Trails Master Plan.
Commissioner Ott, that's yours too.
Motion to approve, and this is available on the DOT webpage, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll second. Any discussion? Call the question. Passes 3-0. How many miles of trail space do we have in Cobb County, Erica?
84.
84.
Yes, sir.
And by the end of 2020, we will be able to connect Kennesaw with the Silver Comet Trail. And we're working very actively to connect the north part of the county too. Yes, so this is another jewel in our crown here in Cobb County. Yes, we should be very proud of it.
And our last item tonight for consideration is to request the Board of Commissioners adopt a resolution authorizing the submission of a better utilizing investments to leverage development or build program grant application to the U.S. Department of Transportation for construction of Acres Mill Road managed lanes access.
Motion to approve.
I'll second. Any discussion? Call the question. Passes 3-0.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Erica. All right, now we have Public Services and Jimmy Giese with Parks.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Our item tonight is to bring forth the proposed master plan for Old Clarkdale Park. It was a project in the 2016 Park Splosh program, and work had begun on renovating the old community center there at Old Clarkdale Park when it was destroyed by fire this past, or last June. So we had to regroup. In speaking with Commissioner Cupid, her wishes were for us to conduct a master plan on the property, just to see what we recommended doing. So we conducted 3 community input meetings, and I'm gonna bring it up. And this is what we've come up with.
We have, Jimmy, we have it in our book. You might, because where we could put this on the screen, Brad? Because we have this in our book.
Where do you
Yeah.
want it, Brad? You put it here too.
Yeah, well, there, right. I want people out in the audience to be able to read this as well as those that are at home.
Not as big as a check.
Okay. Okay, this park is actually located down in the Clarkdale Mill Village, close to the Thread Mill in Austell. This is where the road comes in from up on Austell Powder Springs Road. You've got 2 parking lots. They are existing now. Our plan is just to go in and resurface those and stripe them. This is where the community center building was, and you can see the outline just to show a spatial reference to the size of the old community center. The master plan shows a new community building, a little bit smaller, that'll seat around 75 to 100 people. You've got access coming into the park on the west side. You've got a pavilion with a restroom here. Then you've got the storage area here, which is for the community garden, which is in the back area, along with another restroom facility here. You've got 2 play areas, one for the 2 to 5 age group, one for the 5 to 12 age group. And part of the history of the Clarkdale community is this was the ball field where the mill team played. So we're going to try to incorporate a lot of the history. So we've got like home plate, first, second, third, that we will delineate in the walkways. So community garden, play area. We've got a dog park over here, small and large dogs. The actual walking trail around the park is about 2.5 acres. There's also access points. This is City of Austell land that wraps around us here, and they have some mountain bike trails that go through the woods here. So we would have points here where folks could park and go into those trails as well. As I mentioned, we did have Commissioner Cupid at our public input meetings. She's very much in favor of this plan. The community's very much in favor of the plan. We do not have the money needed to construct the whole thing at this time. However, the community at their last meeting gave us a rank order of the different amenities that they'd like to see. So we do a lot of our parks in phases, so we would ask the board to approve.
I'm so moved. Second. Any discussion? Call the question. Passes 3-0.
Nice plan, thank you.
Yeah, really good looking plan. Thank you, Jimmy. And now on to support services. Sharon?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, and Mr. County Manager. On June 14th, 2016, the Board of Commissioners approved a contract with National Center for State Courts in an amount not to exceed $313,970 to perform a detailed business process needs analysis, document business requirements for all the judicial departments, and create a request for proposal for a new unified court case management system. After delivery of the request for proposal by NCSC, the vendor and information services agreed to close the contract with $108,480.86 remaining. This project is partially funded through SPLOST. The 2016 Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax provides for capital improvements and anticipated corresponding budget funding to address inter alia technology improvements. The Unified Court Case Management System is an eligible capital project program under the Support Services Technology Improvements Work Program. We request tonight that the Board of Commissioners approve cost savings of $108,480.86 on the contract with NCSC and approve a reallocation of the savings to fund vendor evaluation sessions for the top 2 or 3 Unified Court Case Management System vendors that will be selected via the competition process.
Commissioner Ott.
Motion to approve.
I'll second. Oh, we have a second from Commissioner Weatherford. Any discussion? Call the question. Now, what's the next step ahead with this unified court system?
Okay, so the RFP has already been on the street, the vendors have already submitted, and the selection committee actually has already gotten the various submittals, and they're reviewing them, and their first meeting is this week.
Okay. All right, thanks, Sharon.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman,
Hello, Scott.
Commissioners, County Manager.
Good evening.
Property Manager has one item, and it's to approve a supplemental agreement number 1 to the contract with Batch & Cook Company to establish a guaranteed maximum price for the new North Cobb Regional Library. The Ackworth-Kennesaw Consolidation is an eligible program under the 2016 SPLOST. Funding is available in the 2016 SPLOST project budget. The Board of Commissioners approved supplemental agreement number 1 to the contract with Batch & Cook Company in the amount of $7,249,025 to establish the guaranteed maximum price of $8,580,506 for the North Cobb Regional Library, our 2016 SPLOST project located at Old Highway 41 and Blue Springs Road, Kennesaw. Authorize the corresponding budget transactions and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Commissioner Weatherford.
Thank you. Can you give us a timeline on this for the public, please, if you don't mind, when it would start and when you think it would be finished?
Yes, sir. We should see trees being cut down by the end of July, and then we're looking at next spring to be completion.
It's about a year?
Yes, sir. Just a little less than a year.
Thank you.
I'm buying it.
How much is a reading room? Motion to approve as presented.
Discussion. Call the question. Passes 3-0.
All right, thank you.
It's 5,000. The answer is yes. I'm already committed. Okay, on to community development, and hello, Michael.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners, County Manager. The purpose of this agenda item is to request the acceptance of allocations based on the final grant award for CDBG, or Community Development Block Grant Program, the Home Grant Program, as well as the Emergency Solutions Grant Program. By way of brief background, this past October, the board approved a preliminary budget for all 3 of these programs to include recommendations based on 70% of the county's program year 2017 grant allocations. This past April, or just a couple of months ago, we received the final grant allocations were released from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. All citizen participation requirements have been carried out in accordance with HUD's practices and guidelines. HUD provides 100% of these federal funds for eligible CDBG activities. The home and ESG require matching sources of funds, but those are passed on to the subrecipients agencies. Cobb County will not have to provide any general fund dollars for these programs. With that brief background, staff is recommending that you approve this item to include the following. Accept allocations based upon the final grant award, authorize the corresponding budget transactions, and authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Okay, this is normally Commissioner Burrow's motion, but I just want to make a couple brief marks before I make the motion. First of all, there's a revision to the agenda, and we had some small number changes. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Michael?
There were just some mathematical errors
Okay,
that we had
so
to correct.
The new revised agenda just doesn't change the end. It's just
No.
some of the other allocations in there.
Yes, sir.
The second thing I want to point out is that this county was given a plus up for CDBG from last year.
That is correct.
And I had an opportunity this morning to talk to the chief of staff for Congressman David Scott's office, because the congressman is very instrumental in the hearings that allocate these funds. And I thanked him both for the confidence he had in Cobb County, but also that the county, I think, is the model of how federal funds are used. Our commitment in this government is to use taxpayers' money regardless of where it's sourced from, with honesty and integrity. And I think that how we have used these funds in the past year, and the fact that we were plussed up in a very tight budget year in some regards, particularly in programs like this, goes to show you how hard Kimberly Roberts and her office work with the community to make sure these funds are allocated appropriately, where they do the most good. And I promised Congressman Scott that we'll be coming back and working with him on a regular basis. We've already had meetings with him to make sure that we use these funds appropriately, but also that we continue to seek them, because we have areas in this county that are because the county itself can't provide the funding. We need the state and federal government to help us on that, and we really appreciate that. So with that, I make a motion to approve the item as revised.
Second.
Have a second, and a discussion? Call the question. Passes 3-0. Thanks,
you.
Michael.
Evening, Mr. Chairman. Dana Johnson, Cobb County Community Development, here to present a joint agenda item with the Department of Transportation as it relates to a banner display over Sandy Plains Road. Thank you, sir. The Lutzy 43 Road Race has requested a banner to be placed for 3 weeks over Sandy Plains Road to help publicize this event that happens at Lasseter High School. And encourage people to sign up and help this particular charity. The location of where the banner would go would be the pedestrian bridge over Sandy Plains Road, right there by the senior center and the regional library, right there in the complex, in that particular area near Gordy Parkway. So with that, Mr. Chairman, we would ask if the board would consider approving a 24-square-foot banner display to be placed on a public right-of-way over Sandy Plains Road for the Lutzy 43 Road Race from July 21st, 2018 until August the 11th, 2018, and that the appropriate personnel execute the necessary agreements.
Okay, and since this is Commissioner Burrow's district, I'll make a motion to approve as read. Have a second? Any discussion? Call the question. Passes 3-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The final agenda item from Community Development deals with a bond transaction that assists with affordable housing in Cobb County. In coordination with the Merit Housing Authority, BJS McEachern LP is seeking Development Authority of Cobb County revenue notes And as part of the mandatory requirements for that, the Board of Commissioners must approve the issuance of those notes after the Development Authority has done so. So, Mr. Chairman, we're asking you to adopt the resolution from the Development Authority of Cobb County approving the issuance of revenue notes in a maximum amount not to exceed $12 million to finance a rental housing community for seniors and authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents.
Okay, and this is in Commissioner Cupid's district, and so I'll make the motion, but I think it's important to emphasize is that even though we're authorizing the bond, there's no county money involved in this.
That is correct, sir. This is all, but because it's the type of bond transaction that it is, the board has to approve these particular notes, but there's no general fund money or county funds being utilized towards this purpose.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve as read.
Second.
Discussion, call the question. Passes 3-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Dana.
Chairman,
Pat?
Commissioners.
Good evening.
Oh, good evening. County Manager, we're here to ask the Board of Commissioners to authorize entering into a contract with Wileen S. Tritt, also known as Minnie Wileen Tritt, for the acquisition of a portion of certain parcels of real property identified as tax parcels 1609, 6500010, and 1609660010, comprised of approximately 29.71 acres for consideration in the amount of $8.4 million. Approve the terms and conditions set forth in the attached purchase and sale agreement. Authorize payment of associated land acquisition costs. Authorize acceptance of a donation from the Friends for the East Cobb Park, Inc. for a portion of the purchase price, estimated this time to be $102,000. Authorize closing of the purchase of the property substantially as provided in that purchase and sale agreement. Authorize the corresponding budget transactions. And further authorize the chairman to execute all necessary documents and take all other action necessary or appropriate to accomplish the foregoing purposes.
Commissioner Ott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I make a motion, I just want to say a few things. First off, if this is approved, this will culminate the purchase of land from the Parks Bond. So I would just like to, first off, thank the Citizens Committee that spent long hours, probably about 1.5 years ago, for the second time to go out and look at the properties. And also Eddie Cannon and Jackie McMorris. They spent a lot of time going through the 162 properties with each one of us on the flash drive. There was so much information, it had to be on a flash drive. Also want to thank Pat. He has done a yeoman's job in ushering all of these properties through in front of the Board of Commissioners, especially as we kind of get to the wire here. So I just want to thank you and all of your staff for your great job. I want to thank the Friends for East Cobb Park. East Cobb Park is the only park in the entire county system that was purchased through a public-private partnership. And when it became obvious or necessary to potentially close this deal, the Friends for East Cobb Park stepped up once again to continue that public-private partnership with the county. Also want to thank the Cobb Community Foundation for their help in working with the Friends for East Cobb Park in moving this forward. I want to thank Chairman Owens, who probably 12 years ago had the first conversation with Mrs. Tritt when this property was first considered for purchase. Chairman Lee spent time talking with Mrs. Tritt. And finally, I want to thank Mrs. Tritt for finally working out the deal with the county. So with that, I want to make a motion to authorize an agreement for the purchase and sale for the acquisition of portion of certain real property for a public park under the 2008 Parks Bond Resolution and 2017 Supplemental Bond Resolution as described by Pat.
Second.
Okay, so we're gonna have some discussion just to make sure we all understand where we're coming from here, because this is an important event in Cobb County, and I want to make sure we get it on the record. So, Commissioner Weatherford.
Thank you. I concur with Commissioner Ott's thanks. I'd also like to commend Commissioner Ott because he worked long and hard to get this done as well. I don't think those of you that come all the time and wear shirts and hold up cups understand the hard work that this board did going through all these properties. This is my fourth term of elected service, and I have never worked as hard as I did to try to buy a park property. And I know Mr. Riley has done the same thing. You would think that all these that are nominated would say, okay, come buy us. And we go, and then they turn greedy and they want twice of what it's worth. And we work and we work and we work, and we go down to the next list and we try to buy what is the best property for this county with the money we had. So I want to commend my fellow Board of Commissioners for all the work that they've done on this and how hard it was and how many hours that it's taken of tours and talking and negotiating. Commissioner Ott negotiated quite a bit here. I can recall negotiating over a fence, looking at cows, trying to figure out how to buy some property. And it's just not as easy as you might think when you come in with $27 million and want to buy something. I thought people just want to sell it to us, but it's not that easy, is it, Mr. Riley?
It's a little harder than I thought it was going to be, but it worked out. Yes.
Yeah, but it's a culmination of a lot of hard work. And, you know, although some of these particular ones, especially this one, had some terms that I did quite agree with, but in the end, it worked out. Mm-hmm. And I believe that I have some concern that there are only 3 of us here tonight, but I do know, having spoken to Commissioner Burrow, she supports this, and I'm certain Commissioner Cooper does as well. So I feel comfortable moving forward with this with only 3 of us here.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate those comments. The word estimated, it could be a little bit more than $102,000. They understand that, right?
It could very well be.
Okay.
We don't have all the costs in yet.
That's
Attorney's
correct.
fees are still ongoing.
Right, because we still have a couple pieces of property out there that we've signed contracts for, but we're still doing due diligence on. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so the costs are still, but the point is, I just want to make sure that we don't want to have a phone call from my neighbor saying, hey, you said $102,000, and that's the number we're throwing with it. But as long as you understand this is estimated, everybody understands what the grounds are. We're not trying to be fishy. We're just trying to make sure we stay within under our limit that the bond authorizes.
And the Friends Reese Cobb Park Board actually voted to authorize more than that amount, but right now, we had to have a number for tonight.
Sure, right.
So yes, they're good for it.
Right. And the last part.
And these funds are related to this particular closing also.
Right, exactly. Yes. And I think that, again, piggybacking on Commissioner Weatherford's comments, when this property was first discussed by the board, there were a number of proposals made by the property owner that, as excited as Commissioner Ott was to get this through, there are a number of members of the board didn't agree with those terms. So we went back and Commissioner Ott convinced them to make some changes so that we could get a unanimous consent from the board. I thought that was important. The second thing is just like Commissioner Weatherford said, I thought when we had this list of 14 properties last year when we passed the parks bond that would eat up all $27 million. And it was actually a couple days earlier this year when I was sorry I campaigned on the parks bond.
A lot of days.
Because it was going to be tough to spend $27 million. Because people backed out of the deal because their eyes got bigger than I thought that he should have. Because I thought the legacy of people would be that you'd have your name on a park rather than on a development. But that argument just didn't pass with some people. And I understand that. You have a right to make your decisions. But the reason this park, Tritt property, is now going to come under, be another one of the jewels in our crown, is because the board agreed to change the list. The board agreed to change the list. And we did it without any arm twisting from me. And this goes to, I think, what all the commissioners are saying here is that in the end, every one of the commissioners up here cares about this county. Now, every one of them fights passionately for their district. By the end of my first term, I'll be bald and have white hair on the sides. But they fight for their districts. But in the end, they care more about this county than they care about their districts by a little bit, but just enough. And because they do that, we're going to have this property. So I'm not going to, I would like to make one small amendment to Commissioner Ott's. I also spoke with Mrs. Tritt. I got my chance in the ring.
So did I.
With that, with great pleasure, I call this question. It passes 3-0. Now, we would like to bring Roberta Cooke back up here.
Roberta, please come up to the mic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat.
Hi, Pat.
Yeah, you can get off there, just to be safe.
And I would like her to be joined by Jennifer Burke.
Yes.
Who's in the back.
Yes.
You can bring the cup.
Come on, Jennifer.
Jennifer,
All right.
you need to come up here too.
We have been waiting 18 months to do this.
Yes, Jennifer, come on. Jennifer and Roberta to the mic. Now, while they're coming up, everyone in here and probably a lot of folks watching on TV is familiar with Roberta's cup. And to kind of highlight, there was a meeting where Jennifer kind of announced the formation of the Friends for Trip Park, and I pledged $1,000. And the Friends for East Cobb Park have stepped up to make this public-private partnership. So I have brought my cup for Trip Park.
Whoa.
So get out your checkbooks and put your money where your mouth is. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you both, actually both of you. You represent community involvement at its best. And I really want to appreciate all the fun we had, both literally and figuratively over time. But I think you're going to be very proud of what the board has done here tonight. And I know you'll all enjoy it, both you, your children, your grandchildren, and the future of Cobb County. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We're very excited to, thank you very much. We're very excited for the future Trip Park, and I know that your children and grandchildren are going to love it too. So thank you very much. We're very blessed to have it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being good sport, Roberta.
You had no choice, did
you? We have a couple, let's see here, we have a couple public appointments tonight. I'll start with Commissioner Ott.
All right, this is just an announcement, and I'm announcing the appointment of Mike Halloran to the Keep Cobb Beautiful Board.
Okay. And then I make a motion to approve the appointment of Michael Chatry to the Region 1 Behavioral Health and Development Disabilities Board at Post 14. We have a second? Call the question. Passes 3-0. And then make a motion to approve the reappointment of Dan Post Jr. to the Cobb County Board of Family and Children's Services at Post 2. Second? Call the question. Passes 3-0. With that, I'll start the comments with Commissioner Ott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, where's Sharon? Sharon still here? Stanley? Come on up. Don't worry, I'm not going to embarrass you. Many of you are familiar with the fact that last week, I guess it was last week, the Board of Commissioners had a transit. Oh, go ahead and stand by the mic. We had a transit town hall, so to speak, with some of the members of the delegation over at the Civic Center, which property management did a wonderful job of renovating. But when we moved the meeting over there, it was found out or determined that we did not have Wi-Fi there. And Chris Tomlinson's presentation required access to the internet. So overnight, Sharon and her crew built Wi-Fi at the Civic Center.
In the gym area, they had it up in the rest of the building.
Well, no, I mean,
Like-
yeah, but they did not have it
It's
where
like-
we needed
they
it.
didn't.
And, you know, I think I made the phone call at like 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock the night before, and the next morning, they had it all put together. So I don't know if the board knew that, but, so,
Thank you, sir.
kudos to your group.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I got a great team, so.
We're not done yet. There's reasons for that. Now, not to be outdone, we have a lot of folks have heard the term GIS, and you know, it's the mapping software. But over the week, from July 7th, I think it is, well, July 7th through the 12th, ESRI, which is a company that kind of is the gurus for GIS, will be having their annual conference. It's roughly attended by 18,000 people. And they charge normally, if you want to present at this conference, upwards of about $60,000 to $70,000 a minute. Well, Cobb County's GIS department has been asked to present for 12 minutes at no cost to the county.
They're another great team I have.
So that should tell you what we have here. And if you have not been to the GIS page recently, it is not just about zoning anymore. And for morning, we have a GIS page on frogs. And the most frogs in the county are in East Cobb.
They did map your frog. It's the
And I'd be
page.
willing to bet that morning can tell you what the frogs sound like. So if you haven't been to the GIS page recently, you need to go there. There is the information about frogs. We have a new opioid page. There's a whole lot of information in there, historical, trails, libraries, all kinds of stuff. Go to the Cobb County webpage, the bottom of the page, GIS mapping, and there's little boxes for each one of the different things. The next thing is July 4th is Independence Day is next week, and as we celebrate the 4th of July, please keep in mind those who paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. I want to read from an author unknown, and this is a quote. It says, "A veteran, whether active duty, retired, National Guard, or Reserve, is someone who at one point in their life wrote a blank check made payable to the United States of America for an amount up to and including their life. That is honor, and there are way too many people in this country who no longer understand it. So just remember that as you are at your barbecues." That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Ott. Commissioner Weatherford.
Thank you. I'd like a recount on the frogs. I'm fairly certain with Lake Ackworth, Lake Allatoona, and most of West Cobb, I have more frogs than there could ever be in East Cobb.
Well, we might just have to have a little frog competition.
Well, I'm just saying, we may eat ours more than you do, but we have frogs.
Do you have a comment?
It's my 5 minutes, sir. I don't see you putting a time on other commissioners.
Tonight, I'm going to start.
I have another great announcement. This time last year, we were welcoming and congratulating our Cobb County Police Explorers for winning their 9th state championship. Guess what? 10. A decade of #1. That's pretty impressive for our young people and Cobb County Explorer Unit and the officers Higgins and Officer O'Hara. 10th straight year, and we're going to have them up here again. It's getting a little boring, but I'm proud of them. I mean, you know, they just keep winning and winning, so it's great. So thanks again, and congratulations to another great showing at the state championships. And finally, the Atlanta Parent Magazine recently mentioned 3 of our facilities in their best water playgrounds and splash pads in metro area. We have Sewell Park, South Cobb Aquatic, and Wild Horse Creek Park. We're all listed. So this was their lead photo at Wild Horse Creek, and the article is in on the internet and everything. So another example of the great services and facilities we have here. So thank you, sir, and happy 4th.
I just want to, I'm 4 down, 3 to go, town halls. If you haven't had a chance to go to one yet, I would encourage you to attend. If you can't attend one, then please go to our webpage, cobbcounty.org, where it has all the information you ever care to know about the budget. But I'm really proud of the staff, and I want to thank the staff for all they have done for these town halls. Started months ago with Ross Cavett putting together, I say with some tongue in cheek, but not too much, this Emmy award-winning presentation on your taxes, and how hard he and his staff have gone around every place to make sure that they're all properly wired, with speakers working, and my collar microphone is working, the chairs that are set up. I could just go on and on. But these town halls, I think, are what our founding fathers wanted us to have. This is a connection with the people. I've said it again, I'll say it to the day I die. We up here get our power from the people. We're up here to serve you. And I believe in a conversation with you. And I really want to thank all of the staff for making this possible. And if you have not been in one of these town halls, come out here and come out and see one. We have one tomorrow night at the West Cobb Senior Center, Thursday night the South Cobb Lions, on South Cobb Lions Drive at the South Cobb Rec Center, and then the Sewell Mill Library on the 9th of July. So with that, I truly want to wish everybody in the county a happy 4th of July. We live in the greatest nation in the history of mankind, and I'm glad that I'm serving on a board with members here who represent what I believe our founding fathers wanted when it comes to liberty and the defense of freedom. So thank you and good night.